Hello, class. Welcome to week two. Uh, Again, thank you for the first week for submitting your introductions and getting the software installed, Eclipse, and the Java development kit. You're going to use Java throughout this course and throughout the your program here at Southern New Hampshire. So it's a good idea to now that we're just introducing Java, if you haven't used it before, is really pay attention to the basics of Java and practice with it. Go a little bit further than the exercises if you haven't used it before. A good understanding of Java and C++ and some other languages really help you throughout your career. I've worked in Java for many years. You're gonna it's just one of those languages that you're kind of expected to use, and you can make a career just being a Java programmer. But anyway, this module 2, we're going to identify various design constraints and recommend a solution. We're going to demonstrate best practices with a software design template and use software design patterns to efficiently solve a problem. And so we're going to look at through the exercises this week. We're going to look at a company, look at a technical, try to get their technical requirements and start looking at the constraints. So some constraints, for example, are budget, current skills, or existing infrastructure. So are we already in the cloud? Is most of our infrastructure on site? I know where I work, we're a hybrid model where we have both on site and off site infrastructure. We actually use Azure and we use AWS, and then we have a large existing infrastructure that we maintain ourselves. And there's all kinds of reasons to do either one, including control, cost, but when a company comes in and offers us a new solution, budgeting is critical. Also your skill set, since once you start outsourcing, if you do software as service or platform as service, you start losing those skill sets. I'm lucky to work with one of the best Red Hat engineers Linux, Unix engineers I've ever met in my life. And but if we lost him, of course you can always bring in highly skilled people, but to pay somebody just to maintain a few servers is not always the best. So those are the kind of things you look at. But I also worked at a Verizon for nearly 20 years, and that's a more technical company. So we had highly skilled IT professionals in that organization. So working in the retail world versus working in a Verizon world, your skill sets are completely different, your infrastructure different, and so those are all design constraints. So as we're capturing business requirements and then capturing constraints, these are all important to definitely before we get into a project or get into implementation of a project or even to the design of the project. So let's see. So we'll be going through this module. Like I said, there'll be assignment, and then project 1 will be due. Required resources. There's quite a few readings for this week, and you can see they're all wrapped around the design or either Java or constraints and requirements. And so first reading is from hands-on patterns with design, hands-on design patterns with Java, chapters 3, 4, and 5. And these will look into the processes, the threads, and the CPU scheduling. And being on the infrastructure side, appreciate if y'all pay attention to the threads. That's one of the issues we face a lot is with the thread depletion in our applications, or the main application I support. And it's where we're submitting calls and we're capturing the thread, and then those threads aren't being closed, can result in thread depletion. And so having good design processes and techniques can be critical to the application. But other readings is the PDF on design constraints, how to write good software design doc, painless functional specifications. Again, looking, like I said, Java packages. And so we'll look at Java packages. So a lot of things already written out there, and there's a lot of classes. And so now I'm in the retail world, you know, and we work in a women's fashion for Chico's. And so, you know, there's, you know, all kinds of different shopping, you know, software out there, you know. So if you're going to build an e-commerce website, chances are, you know, you're not going to start and build it from the ground up, you know. So there's already classes built, you know, there's common terminology, you know, and so you have, you know, shopping carts and bags and, you know, and checkouts, and you have all these things when you have an e-commerce site. So you don't entirely reinvent the wheel, but you'll take, you know, packages already there and then modify them to your specific organization. There's some additional support or additional readings, more on the UML and system analysis and design. And so please review those, and then design patterns for beginners with Java examples. And so that's a great read, and hopefully, you know, have time to get into the additional support or optional reading. And there's, you know, of course, you can go to YouTube videos and see more, you know, more about Java. You can go straight to Oracle's website. And that's one of the reasons I know a couple people asked me about, you know, what email address to use, or, you know, signing up for Oracle when you downloaded Java. You know, depending on the organization you get, there's free subscriptions, paid subscriptions, and you get more support, of course, with the paid subscription. But you do get access to user groups, you know, you get access to their websites, and you can go in and you look at help files and look at documentation. Once you get into a paid subscription, you know, because I work for a company where we pay Oracle, then you can actually email Oracle engineers and ask them questions. So, you know, it's good. I know, you know, some of our engineers, they use their personal email address to, you know, maintain all their memberships and, you know, different organizations. And then I always use the company email that I use, and then just transfer it if I ever, you know, it's jobs transfer. But so we'll have the assignment, project 2 assignment. So when you're looking at your assignments, you know, so there's a couple companies that you can choose from, and you're basically going to capture their requirement and to start building the software design template. And then as you want to do this, you want to ask yourself about the design constraints, listed design constraints. And you want to use a diagram and a template, you know, where we can transfer business requirements to technical requirements. And so as you're doing these, you know, the rubrics is really, really critical. It tells you exactly what you want, you know, to put into the assignment, you know, so the grading's, you know, pretty straightforward. And so you want to try to meet, you know, 100% meet this proficiency over here, you know, to get an A on the assignment. And so make sure that you're, you know, as you're doing your assignments, you go back and you look at the summary and the constraints and your guideline for submission, which is your rubric, and you know, follows that as much as possible. And then also you have the project 1 milestone, you know, so we'll have these this project will keep on building itself, so you know, get a real good base on the first one. And there's a UML diagram provided that's missing some areas, and you'll go in and you'll come, you know, and improve that UML diagram. And there's a tutorial on how to use Lucidchart if you want to use Lucidchart, you know, and there's a little bit about singleton patterns, and you know, and how to use an iterative pattern or something that's enumerated versus a single class that's always the same across the entire application. And like I said, a lot of these classes, going back to the e-commerce site, you know, you're going to have a shopping cart. Y'all are familiar with that when you go to Amazon. So pretty much, you know, across your e-commerce sites, there's a lot of things that are familiar. You know, same thing if you go in the telecom industry, you know, all the different speeds, you know, have as far as internet access, you know, like your T1 lines, you know, you can have classes in that area. And so you can, you know, go online and look for those. Of course, there's also a rubrics for the project 1. And so go in and make sure, you know, that you meet all these as far as creating a UML diagram, you know, that you use a singleton pattern. You discuss the purpose and characteristics of that pattern. You use the iterator pattern that's enumerated, and then you know, and that you're doing the industry best practices. And so really follow this rubrics as you're going through the assignments. Let's see. just want to go back to the announcement one time. Let's see if I've missed anything. I think I put some key terms in the announcement for this week. So I try to not make it too long, but we went over the objectives. We went over the readings for this week, suggested and required. The two assignments, assignment and milestone, the key terms. Pattern is a proven documented approach, not necessarily a source code. Software design template communicates technical information to non-technical audiences through diagrams and descriptive text. And design constraints are limitations and restrictions that affect the exact design. We discussed some of those. Unfortunately, budget is, normally one of the highest ones or the most important one. Budgets are extremely important. Timelines are extremely important. If, right now I'm working on a mobile application to access our e-commerce site, and they want it in 2 more weeks. The actual original timeline was to have it in today, which is Halloween. So happy Halloween to everybody. But anyway, those, are existing infrastructure. Like we said, I work in a hybrid model, but if you're completely online, you don't want to build a new infrastructure in-house, and and how do you want to mix? If you are in-house, do you want to start working in the cloud, or and other different constraints, that you have on your infrastructure? And it could be, that's just an example, it can be any kind of constraint that you have, even in your store systems. What existing, cash registers do you have? You don't want to build an application that won't work on that machinery or that equipment. I did, like I said, I put this link in here. There's a tutorial, Java straight from Oracle, who owns Java. So you can look at packages, and go out and start getting a little more familiar with Oracle's website. And then we talked a little bit about design patterns, the singleton and the iterator, and you'll use both of those in the project. And then tool use and selection, I've spoken to a few of you. I think I put an announcement out there. Of course, we're using Eclipse and Visual Studio. Suggested that you use Lucid Chart, Note++. I use it all the time. Visio is, is a really good tool to, see diagrams. But you can really use, any tool you want. PowerPoint's a much better presentation tool than it is a diagram tool, but it can be used to make diagrams. But people get familiar with tools, but you want to have you don't want to join a shop, and everybody uses Visio and there's 20 developers. So you want to, at least have a brief introduction to all these different tools, have a basic knowledge of how to use them. And so, dive in, use the tools, go a little bit beyond the exercises and try to get some familiarization with Java, with Visio. And then of course, we're looking at how these Java programs interact with the operating system as well. So have a good week. I look forward to your assignments this week. And if you have any questions, email me. I have my email on pretty much all the time. I check it every morning, usually throughout the day. And so for the students who email me, know that I respond to your emails pretty much, same day. Sometimes within minutes or at least hours. But anyway, if you have any questions, email me, and have a great week.